Sakamoto Takuma was a straight-up legend in Cross Reverie, so much so that players started calling him the Demon Lord, cause he was that OP. Dude was wrecking the game left and right. But one day, he gets yanked into some wild new world, and guess what? He's in his damn avatar form. Right off the bat, he runs into two hotties, both acting like they summoned him. They try to slap him with some lame-ass spell to turn him into their pet, but thanks to his magic reflex skill that spell bounces right back. And now they're the ones stuck under the freaking leash. And that's how Takuma, the pretend Demon Lord, starts running this new world, blasting through every problem with way too much power and a whole lot of swagger. Cross Reverie, the world's most epic MMORPG, has one top dog, the true Demon Lord, Diablo. He's the GOAT, flexing insane gear and skills that leave everyone else in the dust. One time, Diablo clapped a couple of players, hitting them with his signature move, Magic Reflection, like it was nothing. But then things got seriously trippy. Out of nowhere, Diablo started hallucinating about getting smooched by two girls. This left him absolutely shook. When reality finally kicked back in, he realized these two girls, Rem Galou and Shara Greenwood, were standing in front of him. Apparently, they summoned him, and some weird enslavement ritual had been completed. Rem was the brains behind this whole thing, but Diablo was left scratching his head. This guy had been a hardcore solo player forever, so the idea of chatting with girls was way out of his league. The girls started beefing over their little summoning escapade at Starfall Tower, which was near the kingdom of Lefaria and the old Demon Lord's crib. Diablo, now chilling in the border city of Faltra, couldn't believe what was happening. He was like, hold up, did these girls really summon me into Cross Reverie? And how am I supposed to talk to them when I've been a one-man army my whole life? As the arguing hit a fever pitch, Diablo decided to flex his Demon Lord swag. With all the confidence in the world, he told them to quit the drama and make up. Y'all better shake hands and smile, or else. The girls were super salty about it, but his spiritual power wasn't playing around. And just like that, a steel chain magically appeared around their necks, leaving everyone, Diablo included, totally shook. While they were walking, Rem Galou casually told that she had tried using an enslavement ritual on Diablo, but things didn't exactly go as planned. Turns out, Diablo's Demon Lord's ring, the most OP accessory in Cross Reverie, which he got as some event reward, reflected the magic. That bad boy's magic reflection ability was still kicking, and the ritual had backfired, making the girls his masters instead. Rem, trying to keep her cool, said they'd need to head back to the city and figure out how to undo this whole mess. As they walked, both girls introduced themselves because, honestly, they'd never seen a summon that could actually talk before. Diablo, not wanting to spill that he's just a socially awkward shut-in, decided to go with his Demon Lord persona and confidently claimed, I'm not your average summon, I'm Diablo, Demon Lord extraordinaire. They eventually rolled up to the inn in the border city of Faltra, where they met Mei-chan. Diablo, being all shy and flustered, didn't want to share a room with the girls. But, of course, they were broke, so no extra room. Rem insisted that Diablo stay in her room since she was the one who summoned him. Naturally, the girls started beefing over it, which ticked off Mei-chan. In the end, she forced all three of them into a tiny room, which made Diablo nervously wonder if he was about to experience some real Demon Lord nighttime action. Just as things were getting spicy, in waltzes Celestine Baudelaire, the head of the Mages Association and a major character who maintains the town's protective barrier. Diablo knew her from the game and was trying to play it cool. Celestine said she had some business with Rem but was interested in hearing their story. Later, at dinner, Celestine picked up on the vibes from the enslavement ritual and offered to help look into it. Diablo, though, wasn't too thrilled about the idea of releasing the girls just yet. After all, it wasn't like he planned to enslave them. But still, this led to Celestine diving deeper into her research. Diablo, trying to act tough in front of everyone, snapped at Gallic, a dude who got mad at him for not being polite enough. With full Demon Lord swagger, Diablo shut him down. Don't speak to me so lightly, peasant. Meanwhile, Rem wanted nothing to do with the Mages Association or bodyguards. She claimed she could handle herself, no problem. Celestine, realizing this was a bigger mess than she thought, excused herself to go look into breaking their collars. But Diablo's gamer instincts were on fire. Rem was hiding something big, something that smelled like a main storyline quest. With no hesitation, Diablo grabbed Rem and declared he'd get the truth, even if he had to torture her. He dragged her back to the room and demanded she spill the secret. Rem, clearly scared, admitted that if she told him, he might abandon her like everyone else had. In a heated moment, Diablo pushed her onto the bed, but then stopped, realizing, wait, this feels a little too criminal. Diablo, feeling bold, couldn't resist messing with Rem's cute panther ears. He started rubbing them, making her yelp in shock. It wasn't long before he got totally carried away, not really knowing what he should do next. With a deep breath, Diablo decided he wasn't going to back down. Then, in a weird twist, he accidentally kicked her ear, causing Rem to scream even louder. But instead of being mad, Rem was actually happy that Diablo trusted her enough to stick around. She revealed that the soul of the demon lord Krebskulm, the biggest, baddest boss, was sealed inside her. Rem's ultimate mission is to defeat Krebskulm and wipe out the demon's soul for good. Diablo, realizing the grim truth, assumed Krebskulm would only be released when Rem died. And the cherry on top? There was no way to extract the soul without her kicking the bucket. Only Celestine knew about Rem's secret connection to Krebskulm, and even Rem's mom had carried the demon lord's soul before her. This hit Diablo hard, and he swore he'd crush Krebskulm's soul for her. Overwhelmed by his promise, Rem broke down in tears. Diablo, deep in thought, reflected on how he was used to being alone, both in the game and IRL. But just when things were getting all sentimental, Gallic and his goons showed up to crash the moment. Diablo figured he could just dip, but out of nowhere, Gallic smacked him over the head with a liquor bottle, leaving Diablo totally baffled. Gallic, feeling way too confident, tossed an emerald on the ground, summoning a massive tornado that called forth a deadly dragon, Salamander, ready to turn everything to ash. The dragon lunged at Diablo, but our demon lord dodged it with style, leaving everyone in shock. Diablo gave Gallic a knowing smirk, casually mentioning that he's level 150. Then, without missing a beat, Diablo unleashed an explosion skill, creating an epic blast that wiped out Salamander on the spot. Gallic, completely floored by the display of power, had no choice but to surrender. Diablo, grinning like the demon lord he is, introduced himself to his defeated foe, leaving Gallic trembling. The next morning, Diablo wakes up, groggy as heck, realizing it wasn't just some wild dream, he really is stuck in another world. Then, he notices his hand has gone rogue, resting right on top of Shara Greenwood. Embarrassed, he tries to shake it off like it's not his fault, but suddenly, his other hand decides to play copycat and lands on Rem's chest. Diablo's face went full tomato mode as both girls shoot him death stares. Shara jolts awake, backing off like she just saw a ghost, and Rem, all confused, is right behind her. But Diablo, trying to save face, tells Rem to be proud. Those are valuable assets, making both girls scream in disbelief. Later, they're wandering through the streets, and Diablo's taking in the scene. Tons of different races, but no humans in sight. Shara explains they're in the demi-human district, and humans rarely come around. Diablo's still distracted by last night's fiasco and starts wondering if this world runs on video game logic with levels and all that jazz. Rem chimes in, bragging about being a level 40 summoner, and starts bickering with Shara over their levels. She explains that once they're registered at the Adventurers Guild, they can start taking on quests. When they finally hit the guild, Diablo's hit by the rough and tumble vibes of the place. Despite all his OP power, he feels a bit on edge. They head upstairs to register, but Diablo hits a snag. He can't read the local language. Not wanting to lose his cool rep, he casually orders Shara to fill out the form for him. They finish up, and the receptionist tells them they need to seal the deal with a blood mark. Diablo, trying to act tough, cuts his finger but slices too deep, spilling blood all over the form. Everyone's staring, and he's trying to play it off like, yeah, that's how real demon lords do it. Next, the receptionist shows them this magical mirror that measures their power. Shara touches it, and her level reads 30, which Diablo thinks is decent. But when he steps up, the mirror freaks out and shatters, blasting magic all over the place. Enter Guildmaster Sylvie, who's clearly shook. She takes them to her office and explains that Diablo's off-the-charts power broke the mirror. She admits they don't even know how to handle someone at his level, and if he registers, she won't know what quests to assign him. Diablo, not too bothered, just says he'll take anything as long as there's cash involved. Sylvie finds them a mission to hunt a Madara snake in the man-eating woods for its eyeballs, some creepy experiment the Mages Association is cooking up. So, off they go, trekking through the woods. Diablo's still thinking about how weird things have gotten and mentions something about a portal. 5 hours in, they reach the heart of the forest. Shara points out that Madara snakes are huge, like 20 meters long, and usually hide in swamps, waiting for lunch. Suddenly, Shara calls out intruders in the trees. Diablo, ready to throw down, pulls out his emerald-plated stick and unleashes a magic rain spell, causing a chaotic explosion in the trees. Elves come crashing down from everywhere. Enter Celsior, with his crew, armed and ready. He accuses Diablo of being a slave trader and demands Shara, calling her the noble princess of the Greenwood Kingdom. Diablo's thrown off. He knows this story from the game lore. He quickly denies the accusation, but Celsior points to the enslavement collar as proof. Diablo's like, awkward. Meanwhile, Shara stands her ground and refuses to go back to her kingdom. She's got her own life now. Thank you very much. Rem gives her a nod of respect for that bold move, while Diablo, with all his confidence, steps up and lays down the law. First off, I'm no slave trader. I'm a sorcerer. Second, Shara ain't helpless. She's got me backing her up. And third, he glares at Celsior. You seriously messed up picking a fight with me. Celsior, not backing down, fires off some arrows, but they just bounce off Diablo like they're made of paper. Getting frustrated, Celsior shouts that they aren't fighting just some random monsters or low-level fallen. That's when Diablo pieces together why everyone's levels here are so weak. Feeling cocky, Celsior tries again with his Tempest arrows, but Diablo dodges like it's child's play, summoning a whirlwind that leaves everyone speechless. With a smug grin, Diablo casts his Freesia spell, freezing everything in sight and dropping Celsier's so-called elite troops to their knees. Suddenly, Galak strolls up, all sarcastic. "These are the elite troops? What a joke." Diablo, catching on, asks if Galak was the mastermind behind the ambush. Galak admits he just whispered to the elves that their princess was hanging around. Diablo's eyes narrow, and he warns Galak that if he tries any funny business again, he'll wipe him out without a second thought. Rem chimes in, wondering what Celestine would say if she knew Galak had dragged the Mages Association into this mess. Hearing that, Galak panics, tries to make a run for it, but slips on the ice like some kind of cartoon villain. Meanwhile, Shera steps forward, squaring up to Celsier. She tells him to pass a message to her brother. "I'm not coming back. I'm staying right here with my friends, Rem and Diablo." That shuts him up real quick. Later that night, Rem heads off to inform Celestine about the day's drama, leaving Shera and Diablo alone in their hotel room. Shera starts admiring Diablo's magic, and the conversation shifts to the fate of their world. She catches on that Diablo is thinking of choosing Rem to fight Krebskolm, but Shera's not about to let him leave her behind. She wraps her arms around him in a hug, catching Diablo off guard. Then, things take a wild turn. Shera pushes Diablo onto the bed and climbs on top of him. Diablo, flustered, tries to play it cool, explaining that he's the Demon Lord, the lone wolf type, and that's why he's got no companions. Plus, he hasn't even chosen Rem yet. Things get real steamy as they start whispering their fantasies. But before anything can happen, an angry and very furious Rem storms into the room, eyes blazing. Deep in the forest, Edelgard was straight up tripping. Meanwhile, at the Adventurers Guild, Sylvie pops up with a commission that's got Diablo's name written all over it, straight from Celestine Baudelaire, the head of the Mages Association. Big payday, but they've got to team up with Galak. Rem's not feeling it. She doesn't want to owe Celestine any favors. Diablo, thinking he's slick, figures he could split the reward and cover Rem's rent with it. He tells her if she doesn't want to come, then fine, stay in the city. The mission is to head to Ulug Bridge and deliver some snacks. Easy, right? Well, not so fast. As Diablo and Shera are leaving, they get stopped by Emil Bichelberger, who's running his mouth about rumors of Diablo enslaving people. Oh, and he's rocking some crown that makes him look like a demon lord, so there's that. Diablo takes it off, and Emil freaks out. Turns out, Emil's supposed to be the guild's strongest warrior at level 50, and he's all about protecting women. So, naturally, he can't let this enslaving stuff slide. He tries to flex on Diablo with his sword skills, but Diablo's like, nah, bro, and easily counters Emil's strikes. Emil tries again, but Diablo knocks him into a pile of boxes like it's nothing. Diablo's thinking, man, the levels here are weak compared to my game world. Emil, bless his heart, gets up for round 2, but before things get worse, the girls step in and explain the whole collar situation. They screwed up, and Diablo's actually helping them break free. Emil's all smiles and apologies after that. Later, Diablo and Shera are on their way to Ulug Bridge. They stumble across a river, and Shera, being Shera, suggests they bathe together. Diablo, predictably, freaks out, wondering why she's even thinking about that mid-quest. They could trigger an invasion, and that thought shuts Shera up real quick. She clings to Diablo, which only makes his face go red. When they finally reach the fort, the guards surround them, eyeing Diablo's horns like he's the devil himself. Boris Marcus, one of the guards, says Diablo might be the horned demon everyone's been whispering about. Shera jumps in to explain they're just here to deliver some refreshments, but Boris spits the real shocker. Over 100 Fallen are marching their way. Diablo's alarmed. In the game, Fallen were like boss monsters. But here, these folks are about to get wiped out if those things cross the bridge. Shera mentions the Fallen have been trying to revive the demon lord Krebskolm. Diablo immediately connects the dots. If that's true, then their real target is Rem, who's hiding the demon lord inside her. He's ready to bounce back to the city, but Boris hands him a letter of thanks and says if they dip, the slower folks outside the city will get slaughtered. Shera's bummed out, and Diablo decides they've gotta help. Meanwhile, Rem's back in the city and gets a visit from Celestine, who's chatting about some serious stuff. As all this is going down, the guards lower the gates, and suddenly, the Fallen army shows up, led by Edelgrand, who's riding a damn dodo bird. Diablo tells Shera and Boris to back up while he faces off against the incoming horde. For once, someone actually shows concern for Diablo before a fight, and that catches him off guard. A Fallen confronts him, but Diablo blasts him away with magic. No sweat. Back in the city, Rem's conversation with Celestine takes a weird turn. Galak bursts in, looking rough, holding a dagger with blood on his face. Rem gets a bad vibe, and sure enough, things go south fast. Galak flips out and, in the chaos, kills himself, but not before turning into this big, ugly Fallen monster. Meanwhile, Diablo's handling Edelgrand on the bridge, and she's no pushover. She introduces herself as the strongest lancer of the Fallen, and Diablo's itching to see how tough she really is. She charges, ready to throw down. As the city of Faltra went into full-on chaos mode, innocent folks were running for their lives, trying to dodge the Fallen swarm like it was Black Friday at the gates of hell. Meanwhile, Celestine was staring down a full-blown monster Galuk, completely mind-blown that this dude had gone full traitor and dragged a fallen straight into the city. No time for feelings though. Galuk didn't hold back, and while the guards tried to step up, Rem and Celestine bolted from the hotel, hauling ass down a side alley. But just when they thought they'd lost him, bam! Galuk cornered them again. Galoo, in a panic, summoned some mythical bull, thinking it'd save the day, but Galuk didn't even blink. One hit and that bull was toast. Then, out of nowhere, here comes Emil, acting like the hero of the damn day, totally in shock that a fallen's rampaging through the streets. He didn't hesitate, charging Galuk with his sword like he was auditioning for some action movie. But Galuk didn't give a shit. The monster just stood there like, really, bro? And blasted Emil with some magic, sending him flying like a ragdoll. Emil, stubborn as hell, kept coming back for more, using his fancy sword smite move, but Galuk shrugged that off too, firing dark bullets like it was his morning workout. Emil's getting pelted left and right, but he refuses to go down. Galuk, though, he's enjoying the show, probably thinking, this idiot just doesn't quit, huh? Meanwhile, on the other side of the chaos, Diablo was straight up dancing around Edelgrand's spear attacks like she was a level 10 noob. He had her number from the start. She might have been level 80, but Diablo wasn't sweating it. She hit him with her sacrificial charge, a wild-ass move that eats her own health to deal max damage. Thinking she had him, Diablo, cool as ice, figured this was the perfect moment to crush her spirit. She came charging in, and Diablo countered like a pro, setting off shockwaves that shook the whole damn place. Edelgrand thought she had him, but Diablo dodged her last attack, leaving her looking like she just got played hard. That's when Boris came crashing in, freaked the hell out, yelling that Rem and Celestine were under attack. Diablo's brain hit overload. He realized Edelgrand had sneaked one of her soldiers into the city ahead of time. He didn't have time to mess around anymore. Diablo turned to Shera and the rest, telling them to hide behind the walls while he summoned his grand magic. In true Diablo style, he threw out his badass title, Demon Lord Diablo, and then unleashed a freaking white nova. The whole place exploded, tearing the bridge apart and sending Edelgrand and her fallen army flying like paper dolls. Diablo couldn't believe it. Edelgrand survived that. Barely, but still standing. Just as he's getting ready for round 2, he uses his return spell and poofs out of there, knowing there's a bigger mess waiting for him back in the city. Back in Faltra, Galuk had wiped the floor with every soldier in sight, and poor Emil was barely holding on. Just as things were about to hit rock bottom, Diablo and Shera teleported in like saviors. Shera flung herself at Rem, and Diablo handed Emil a healing potion, much to Celestine's shock. She couldn't believe a demon lord was actually helping them out. Diablo, still keeping his cool, acknowledged how Galuk had seriously messed up Edelgrand and most of her army. Galuk, pissed off and full of rage, attacked with his dark bullets, but Diablo slapped those away with his magic reflection like it was nothing. Galuk tried again, hitting him with dark press, but Diablo hit back, reflecting the attack right into Galuk's face, slamming him into the ground with a brutal thud. Galuk, now begging like a little bitch, pleaded for mercy, but Diablo wasn't having any of that. He summoned Nakaru and, with zero hesitation, evaporated Galuk's sorry ass, sealing him into a dark dimension forever. Shera jumped on Diablo with joy, and Rem thanked him, genuinely believing he might be able to save her. Diablo, flustered as hell, claimed Rem's enslavement collar meant she belonged to him. Shera, not wanting to be left out, asked if she belonged to him too. And with that, Diablo just straight up fainted, leaving the chaos behind. 3 days later, they buried the casualties of the Fallen's attack, mostly adventurers who had no damn clue what they were up against. Diablo, still reeling from the weight of the whole mess, had to come to terms with the harsh truth. This wasn't a game. When someone dies here, they're gone. No do-overs, no respawns. But what shocked him the most, even after all the tragedy, people still clung to that tiny flicker of hope. 10 days later, Diablo was running on fumes, his MP tank practically on empty, and he couldn't shake the gloomy cloud hanging over him. He barely had time to recover when Shera, in full-on swimwear, jumped on him like a damn cat. Moments later, Rem stormed in, furious and screaming at Shera for wearing something so ridiculous. Shera, completely unbothered, just said she was hot. Rem kicked her away and scolded her like a big sister. As if that wasn't enough drama, Sylvie barged in to flip things upside down. The Lord of Faltra had received some serious demands from the Elven Kingdom. They wanted Shera handed over, and the deadline was 10 days. If they didn't comply, the elves weren't scared to start a war. The Lord issued a quest for Diablo and the crew. They had 10 days to stop a damn war. Sylvie dropped a bomb on Diablo, telling him that the Lord of Faltra just got an ultimatum from the Elven Kingdom. If they didn't hand Shera over in 10 days, those pointy-eared bastards would declare war. Diablo's brain went into overdrive. Shera had already made it crystal clear she wasn't going back to her kingdom, yet those idiots kept pushing. Diablo's first reaction? Pure, unfiltered rage. How the hell am I supposed to stop a war? He barked, practically spitting fire. And why the fuck should I even protect Shera? That's when Sylvie dropped another sucker punch. Prince Kira had put a fat bounty on Shera's head. Diablo's blood boiled. "Oh, they want to play? Fine, let's play. I'll make those pricks regret ever messing with me," he snarled, determined to leave a trail of chaos behind him. First stop, a chat with the city's lord to gather some intel. Shera, of course, being her bubbly self, jumped on Diablo, hugging him like he just promised her a lifetime supply of sweets. As they made their way to see the city's lord, Sylvie filled him in on the details. The lord, Chester Ray Galford, was a total badass. A hero who single-handedly took down a bunch of demons 30 years ago. Dude wasn't an adventurer, so no one knew his level, but Sylvie made sure Diablo knew he needed to tread carefully around him. When they met Galford, Sylvie announced that Diablo had accepted the mission but needed more info. Galford, looking like he had better shit to do, told them he'd already shared everything. Diablo, who was ready to throw hands from the moment they walked in, introduced himself after Rem and Shera, but he could already feel this situation spiraling out of control. Galford, straight-faced as ever, asked Diablo if he really was a demon lord from another world. Diablo, never one to back down from a challenge, stared Galford down and said, "If you want to find out, I can turn you into ash right now." The room went dead silent, and everyone's embarrassment was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Galford, somehow keeping his cool, brought out a map and showed them that about 100 elves were camped out near Seplia Lake, ready to ambush anyone who dared come near their trees. Diablo wasn't fazed. No way in hell was he handing over Shera. "She's with me now, ain't nobody taking her." That's when Galford opened up yet another surprise. Alicia Cristela, an Imperial Knight sent by the royal capital. Diablo's eyebrow twitched hearing about an Imperial Knight. Back in his world, only the top-tier nobles got that kind of gig. Alicia, all business, noticed Rem struggling with something internal but didn't pry. Instead, she handed Sylvie reparations from the king and then surprised everyone by voicing her support for Shera's choice. Diablo was caught off guard. This night was way too smooth for him. She thanked him for his help, and Diablo, being Diablo, shot back with some rude comment. Alicia didn't even flinch and said she'd offer her life to him if necessary. That shook Diablo to his core. Later, as they headed to the weaponsmith, Diablo was cooking up a plan. The residents of this world were low-level scrubs compared to his game world. He didn't want to accidentally splatter someone's guts all over the place, especially with Alicia watching. He needed a weapon that would let him hold back, not obliterate. After picking out a massive weapon that would do the trick, they decided to grab some potion ingredients from a nearby shop. But before they could do much, Shera bolted. Alicia was right behind her, but the second she gave chase, bounty hunters dropped a smoke bomb, filling the area with thick, choking fog. Diablo, not even breaking a sweat, cleared the smoke with his weapon, revealing Shera getting dragged off by the hunters. Diablo didn't waste a second, slamming two of them into a wall like they were paper dolls. Another hunter tried to sneak up on him, but Alicia stepped in, slicing the guy down. Rem wasn't idle either. She clocked a spy hiding in the shadows with a punch so hard it probably rearranged his face. Diablo dashed toward the last two hunters, smashing them with a double strike. Just as things were calming down, Emil rolled in like a one-man show. He introduced himself, explaining that he'd heard about the bounty and was here to protect Shera. Dude was all about saving women in distress and vowed to beat the crap out of anyone who made them cry. He hauled off the bound hunters, leaving Diablo to scold Shera for wandering off like some headstrong toddler. Shera, relieved and totally ignoring his scolding, hugged him again, and Rem even thanked him for the help. Alicia, still a little rattled from earlier, apologized for letting her guard down, but Diablo cut her off. "You got it all twisted," he growled. "I never needed your help, nor did I want it." He then studied Alicia's intense diligence and threw her a curveball. "You one of those types that think if you're not useful, you don't deserve to live?" Alicia denied it, but Diablo wasn't buying her bullshit. He told her to stop worrying about being useless all the damn time and to just chill the hell out. Alicia, being the straight-laced knight that she was, took him too literally and said she'd make forgiving herself a goal. Diablo damn near exploded. "You missed the point completely." Suddenly, Alicia's stomach growled like a beast. The awkward silence that followed was deafening, and they decided to go grab some food. Celestine thought she might have a way to get rid of those collars on the girls, but she wasn't totally sure. Meanwhile, a slave caravan rolled into town and set up shop in the central plaza. Alicia was laser-focused on dealing with the Kingdom of Greenwood first, but Diablo convinced her that checking out the slave market wouldn't throw them off course. Diablo, expecting something out of an anime, was hit hard when he saw the lineup of women, all collared and up for sale. Medios, the owner, casually offered to buy Shera and Rem for a hefty sum. Diablo wasn't having it. He shut that down real quick, telling her straight up they weren't for sale. Medios sensed that Diablo and Shera were packing serious magical heat and figured they meant business. After explaining that they needed to learn how to get those collars off, Medios got curious. She noticed something off about Rem's magic, asking if Rem might have somehow gotten knocked up with a demon baby. Everyone was floored, especially when Shera jokingly pointed fingers at Diablo, saying he must have tortured her into it. Diablo was pissed and demanded Medios help buy them ASAP. Medios agreed to help them out privately. While Rem got a bad vibe, worrying Medios could see right through her, Alicia handed her a charm to hide her secrets. The charm needed actual magic to work, so Rem had to close her eyes and reach out to Alicia. Meanwhile, Midios had Shara squeezed into some weird outfit and told Diablo to touch her skin to feel her magic flow. Diablo, taking things way too seriously, had a crazy moment where he imagined Shara as a magical tool instead of a person. As he tapped into her magic, Shara started making some interesting noises. Midios told him to focus lower and pour in his own magic gently. Diablo followed through, finding a stream of magic in Shara's belly and worked his way in, causing her to scream loud enough for Rem and Alicia to hear. Later that night, Diablo admitted that while he'd figured out how to see the magic flow, unlocking the collars was like trying to untangle a chaotic mess. He wasn't quite there yet. The magic was complex, almost like a smoke-filled maze. He needed more time to crack it. While Diablo was drained, Shara was still full of energy. Alicia rented a room nearby, but just as she was about to leave, they all heard the eerie sound of a flute. They opened the door to find an elf playing the flute and singing, a face Diablo recognized as Kira L. Greenwood, Shara's older brother and the prince of the Greenwood Kingdom. Kira demanded Shara return home, but Diablo immediately confronted him about the bounty. Kira brushed it off as a misunderstanding, claiming relief that Shara was safe. He even apologized on behalf of their father and swore there'd be no war with the humans. Shara, however, wasn't convinced. Kira was acting too different. Rem, skeptical too, said the choice was ultimately up to Shara. This emotional reunion had Kira promising to return the next day for Shara's final decision, vowing to respect her choice either way. Later, as Shara gazed out the window, unable to sleep, Rem asked her what she planned to do. Shara firmly stated she wasn't going back. She had made her decision when she left home and had no regrets. Even if Kira wasn't lying, her heart was set on adventuring with Diablo and Rem. She even dreamt of opening a cafe with them, feeling closer to them than her own family. Rem, still wrestling with her own demons, said she couldn't think about the future yet but might join Shara once her issues were sorted. Shara, overjoyed, got playful and pounced on Rem, rubbing her tail and mimicking Diablo's magic from earlier, causing Rem to scream and wake Diablo. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Kira played his flute with a sinister look, declaring that by tomorrow, Shara would be his, and she'd bear his child.